Exciting. In person, not on Zoom. I don't get to see all the basements and all the other rooms you guys work out of. No, exciting time for us over these next couple days as we're looking forward to adding a lot of talent and quality players and people to our organization. Jason and Jerry will be leading the draft. Done a great job preparing the staff, and we're ready to go. Today we'll be open and happy to talk about the draft. We're not going to get into players and trade discussions and other stuff going on, but happy to answer any questions you may have for the upcoming draft. So, fire away. Okay. Yeah, there's been a tremendous amount of conversations going on, I'd say, over the last couple of weeks, leading to Saturday when the freeze hit, and everybody kind of trying to work through different scenarios. Obviously, unique year with expansion, then some of the experience people had from the previous expansion draft and how that affected conversations. And I think everybody submitted their list, caught their breath a little bit, and then as the last couple days have played out, starting to understand what the roster may look like again. Obviously, there's been a freeze, so nothing can happen, but lots of conversations, lots of different scenarios. And I said to you guys over and over again, we're willing to listen to every possible thing that's going to get our franchise pointed in the right direction. That's what we've continued to do. I mean, it depends. You know, we're not focused on that saying, hey, we have to do this, but if it's the right deal that we think makes sense for us as we look to build around a young core of players, then we would do that. But it has to be the right thing for us. It's not something we're just going to do to do it. It has to be, we have to look at each other in the eye and say, this is the best thing for the Buffalo Sabres. That one's for me? Okay. All right. Well, you're right. We won't tell you. But, you know, we're excited about the top of this draft. And these guys have done a phenomenal job over the last months of preparing for this draft. We've with our scouts, gone through, I mean, from top to bottom, what is a Sabre and what are we looking for? And we're excited about the player we're going to get at number one. So that's all I'll give you, but I understand why you have to ask the question. Yeah, that's a great question. On a 0 for us, does it factor into whose name we call tomorrow? You know I've said this before. Clearly, you're looking to draft who we believe is, you know, the top player, but also who's going to be the top player projecting out moving forward, and that's obviously challenging. So this isn't about who comes out of the gate in day one is the best player. This is about where they go in their career. So development is never a straight line. You want to put these players in a position to continue to get better, continue to grow, continue to be ready when they step into the NHL. This is a tough league, and you know, so I think one mistake we don't want to make is putting someone in a position that they're just treading water. We want them to be ready to play. Yeah, Lance, I think we didn't want to lose anyone. I'm a big fan of Will as a person, as a player, high character, and Seattle got a good one there. The fact of the matter is the rules are put the expansion team in a pretty good position that they're going to get a player from every team that they like. So you understand what's coming. You look at every possible scenario, but you have to be, in my opinion, and what we've talked about is you have to be really careful making an emotional decision or trying to do something where maybe you're giving up more assets just to save something. So it's a challenge. But the fact of the matter is, you know you're going into it going to lose a player, and you're going to lose a good player. And so that's what happened, and now we move on. Yeah. I mean, first of all, I think it says a lot about Jeff Skinner and what he believes in here moving forward. Obviously, with the long-term contract, he wants this team to be in the best position to have success. And by him being willing to step up and do that showed that, not only does he care about the organization and he gets it, cares about the teammates and, all that goes along with that. So I think that was a great thing that Jeff did, and we had great conversation with Donnie Meehan and Newport Sports around that, and just we're very honest with each other, and we're appreciative of that.
And as things get closer here, you know what this draft is about. So as you get into Friday and as things go on, or even today, is there more thought process, I've got to get something done with somebody because I know I'd like to get, there's a pick on the table here that I'd like to get, and I know it's going to be the 6th round or 6th overall, 4th overall. Whereas if you put it off till next year, you don't know when that pick's going to be. So does that affect your thinking as you move forward here in the next 24 to 36 hours?
Well, what I think it does do, Paul, is those conversations happened before where I lean on Jason and Jerry and the scouting staff to say, where are we if this pick became available in the first round? Where is our list where we see a tier? Is there a fall off at a certain number? And how does that shake out? So that is a really good question because it's valuable information that I'm leaning. And of course, we don't know how the draft's going to play out. Our list is very unlikely to be the same as every other team. So, you're trying to figure that piece of it out. But I think probably the net of the way to answer that question would be you look at every situation and you think, is this the right thing for our franchise for where we are right now? And if you wait, the unknown could be something else, and you balance that. And then you make the best decision at that time. But that's definitely stuff we've been talking about for months leading up to today and tomorrow.
Here with the CBS station in Buffalo, just looking at the draft and this weekend as a whole, how do you balance looking at the long-term picture versus trying to get guys in different deals that can help you right now?
Well, I think, it's interesting. I think the reality of the draft is that these players are young, and even the top players, there is a development path that happens, and so you're seeing, okay, even if you're a top pick, what are you going to be like at 22, 23 years old? So now move that down further into the rounds, and you're drafting players that where are they going to play the next 2-3 seasons, and then when they're ready to be in Rochester, you could be 5 years away. So you're balancing all that, and I think you have to be very careful to make short-term decisions without having a foundation strong, and that's where we need to make sure that we're philosophically we're all aligned. We're building the foundation. We're finding quality players, whether it's current players on our team, players around the league, or our drafted players that we can build as a core and that want to be here. And that to me is a really important philosophical kind of conversation that we have to stay true to, and with our core principles as we make these decisions, sometimes in crunch time. So we balance all of that. But I think the bigger point is that we have to really focus on the foundation in the short term, and then talk about how do we build it for the longer term.
Channel 7. It's funny, every year I feel like we hear, oh, it's going to be a really crazy day. There's going to be a ton of movement. And then every year we're all sitting there like, well, where's all this movement? Well, this year I think it's a little different with the expansion draft, the draft, and then free agency next week. In your estimation, how active do you think these next couple days are going to be around the league? Will we see a lot more movement? Do you think it's going to be pretty quiet? And then what are you anticipating for you guys?
Well, I do, based on conversations, there is a lot of things happening around the league. How much comes to fruition, we'll see. I think the expansion piece is interesting because it kind of was a certain conversation that was happening before the deadline hits, expansion plays out, now teams reset, and some conversations that you were having are built upon, some conversations are new. So I think there's going to be certainly a busy couple days here leading through Saturday, and I think then you'll see as you get into free agency, we're in this condensed time. So I guess I'm not in a perfect thought process to predict, but I would assume it's going to be busy for all teams.
The athletic football as well. Jason, start with you. What have you learned about this scouting staff as you went about putting this list together, and how did you put the list together?
Yeah, thanks, Sean. It's been a whirlwind, to say the least, since I got the job. There's been a lot to do, and it's been a lot of fun. So I think I said it already, but it's worth saying again that, I expected it to be the case when I was coming here, but definitely confirmed that there are a lot of great people here. There's people that have experience, there's people that work hard, there's people that believe in the future of the Buffalo Sabres. So happy to be a part of that. We've been we've jumped right in. I myself have jumped right in and tried to play catch up, quite frankly, because it's a strange year with everything that's gone on and has been well documented to this point. I think the league in general maybe had to do things a little differently this year with regard to the draft. We certainly, weren't an exception to that aspect of what's gone on. But the fact of the matter is we have a great opportunity in front of us. We're excited about it, and we feel very well prepared for all the twists and turns that can come on draft day and these days that are coming up here.
Quite a few people in this organization. What did you incorporate from what you learned from them, and what did you bring to this?
Well, first of all, one thing I don't think's been talked about enough is, it's been extraordinary what some of these players and teams have been able to do this year. The vast majority of these players throughout the draft found a way to play significant hockey this year. Many of them jumped from Canada to the U.S. and back. There's players in Europe that have played in 4 or 5 different leagues. In some cases, kids have been in a form of a bubble 3, 4 different times during the year. To me, that was an opportunity to see a lot of players go through some adversity they haven't had to go through in the past. I could say the same thing about our staff. I think they did an extraordinary job getting to games, going through COVID protocols themselves. In many cases, for all of us, mid-travel, having games, canceled, but still finding a way to get to the games. So I'm very confident we have extensive live and video coverage in all the leagues. We had a World Juniors this year. We had 5 of our staff members down at the under-18s this year. Almost every league found a way to play a good portion of the league and the playoffs. We have great coverage in Europe live. We have great coverage in Canada live. We have 4 or 5 scouts covering the U.S. live this year. So I think obviously we've incorporated the video an awful lot. I also believe we have now 2 of the best analytic minds in the game of hockey. So we're putting that all together, and we feel really good for the drafts I've been involved with. I feel as good about this list as any draft I've been involved with.
Jerry, to piggyback off that, there still is some uncertainty when it comes to, how the draft boards are ranked, given the fact that these guys have played only 20, maybe 24 games, some of them even 12. Do you anticipate in the later rounds that there might be more of a focus on the 19-year-olds because you might have more tape on them or a better assessment I'm not talking about the Sabres specifically, but the NHL draft as a whole in the later rounds where the 19-year-olds might be more of a focus this year?
I think that's been a little bit of a trend already the past few years. And, we have all the underage video and data from these players too. So we're looking at all of that. And there'll be a lot of, second, third year draft eligible players taken this year, like every year. And we've had an extra month here with the video too. And our staff, I don't know that there's too much video with the access we have through the various sources we use. I don't know that there's too much video we don't have on a player in the draft. So we have 40, 50, 80, 100 plus viewings on many of these players on top of the detailed data.
Kind of a generic thing, but just as a whole, what trends do you see in this draft this season? Top to bottom.
I can start off by saying that, I don't know exactly how to answer the question. I think every year, there's all sorts of different kinds of players, obviously different backgrounds. I think this year, what Jerry's alluding to is it is different, and you have to congratulate the players themselves and the leagues, the people operating these leagues, the coaches, and dealing with all the circumstances of this year. I think we always try to project these kids as players, obviously, also as people, as they grow older. Most of the players we draft are 17 and 18 years of age, and so they're still early on in their development. So, we're trying to, think of everything we normally would bring to the table in terms of evaluating players, but also given the circumstances and the unique nature of this year, the challenges that they faced and how certain players have, faced those challenges and what they've decided to do, maybe gives us a little bit more of a book on who they are as people and their, willingness to, rise in the face of adversity. So I think the trend is just, it's the same in terms of a very difficult job. What I think is the most difficult aspect of our business, evaluating players at this age and projecting them into the league. We're just trying to gather all that information that we can and make the best decisions possible.
Jason, I want to kind of delve into your philosophy a little. You've won cups. Cup teams draft well. The Sabres have drafted well in the past in the first round, but most fans could have made most of those picks. Where the Sabres have failed time and again over the years is middle round, second, third, fourth. Kevin just declined to sign another second rounder recently. The player was hurt, understandable. What does a good team do to succeed on that second day of the draft where the Sabres have failed so much over the recent years?
I'm not going to pretend that I've got all the answers. I think that would be a pretty presumptuous point of view. But I think what people try to do, myself included, is you're taking a very difficult aspect of our business, trying to project these very, very young kids into the NHL at some uncertain point in the future. I think there's a tendency sometimes to maybe pick apart these players as we analyze them and overanalyze them, quite frankly. We have to concentrate on the things that we see in these players, both as players and as people, that we think are special qualities that do project to the National Hockey League, which, Kevin made the point earlier, it's a very, very difficult league to play in and to be successful. So, trying to really focus on that projection is key. It's not a race to see who gets there first. It's very much a marathon for these kids to have a career and a successful career and be a part of a winning organization is the goal. So we're looking and trying to take a clear focus throughout the draft, the beginning, the middle, the end, free agency, trades, every way we have to acquire players, to find players that fit into what we perceive to be our timeline. For when we're going to be a good team. But, Not going to pretend it's easy, not going to pretend that I have any magic answers, because I don't. I've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of great people with a lot of experience that I've learned from. So I try to bring that to the table and offer, my experience to the group here, and hopefully over time we start to get the results that we need to get us where we want to get to.
You speak about projection, Jason. When it comes to the decision at number one, I mean, it's probably forward or defenseman, right? Defensemen take a little bit longer. We've seen it with Dahlin, some of the struggles that young defensemen go through in the league. So how do you really, when you're making a decision, how do you balance forward and defenseman when it comes to that development track, and how the certain, decisions you make as an organization can impact how long it can take for that player to reach their potential?
Yeah, no, it's a really important point. We've talked about that a lot, the development path and how it goes, and and I think that can be a determining factor sometimes in terms of a player's career and how it plays out. Some players are fortunate to be able to, kind of slide into a situation after, having some experience, and they slide in slowly to the NHL. And for a lot of players, that has worked out really well. Some players are able to deal with the challenge and jump right into the league and do very well. I do think that, positions do make a difference in terms of how difficult the transition can be. Some of that has to do with the particular player's makeup, physically, mentally. All of those factors have to be considered, and I think it's on us to try to figure out what the best course of action is on a case-by-case basis. That's how I would answer that question.
And Sam Ventura, somebody that you've hired, first of all, what attracted you to him to bring him to the organization? What kind of information is he going to provide for you?
Yeah, we've talked, since I've gotten the job, about how we want to build out the analytic department, use data to really help drive decisions. And I think, ultimately what you're looking to do is create a process where you're learning and getting all of the information of what the data's saying. You're getting the scouts' input, and you're putting it all together. And sometimes it's great when it matches, sometimes it doesn't, and then you ask why. But creating that process of decision-making is critical. So, I didn't know Sam Ventura. He worked in a previous organization, when there was an opportunity that his contract had expired and he was available. That's something that we felt that this is a really potential additive person for us. And as we transition Jason Nightingale, who's been wearing a lot of hats, into more of the amateur side, with still part of his background in the analytics and doing all that, that really sets us up to have really smart, talented people that are part of the process. And I think just the reality of where we're going in terms of technology and the puck track, and there's just so much more that's coming. I think we're just scratching the surface of where we're headed as a league, and I know other leagues are even further along than the National Hockey League, but that's coming. So we want to continue to add to that, and that is our plan. I just think it's a really important piece for our organization moving forward.
Jason, Matt Bove with WKBW. I know you said you jumped right in, and you've certainly got a lot of things that are going on right now. But as you've taken your initial glance at maybe organizational depth, what have you learned about this organization, I guess, from top to bottom, as far as the prospect pool, players that are already in the system, and where does it need to grow? What needs to be added, in your opinion?
No, it's what I expected to a certain degree when I came in. Obviously, before I took the job, was offered the job, before I came here, obviously had somewhat of an understanding of the organization and the prospects from my prior stops, and over time, just information that, I gathered on my own. But since I've been here, and, go through the end of the season and go through, lots of meetings, I believe we're in a much better spot than is perceived. We've got a young core that we rightfully so think very highly of, that can be part of our success in the future. So I think, it's an obvious point, but the teams that win, they have an incredible amount of depth. throughout their organization. We don't have that yet, you know, and that's understandable for where we are. So we need to use the various modes that we have in place to acquire players and find talent, and we need to do a good job making those decisions. So I think we're in a good spot, better than perceived, but we do need to build the organization and the depth within the organization for sure.
Kevin, kind of going off of that, when you head into the draft, do you have a specific target when it comes to positions like, hey, we want to draft X amount of defensemen, X amount of forwards, you know, whatever the case may be? Or is it just simply when you get to your pick, draft best player available?
Yeah, I think it's really important to go back to the timeline of development of when you draft a player, because if you get, hey, we really need this, your team could look a lot different. A player may take 5 years, and that's not unrealistic. So I think that for us, philosophically, we're looking to build our organization up with very talented hockey players, good people, and I think if, you know, as we go down our list, you know, we always talk about that. Is this the best player? And do we project him to be the best player, and less about position? But it's something you always think about, where are our prospects in different places, but, you know, I think it's, for us, it's more the long term.
Everyone pretty much expects this organization to be on a different path soon. How confident are you in the path that you've mapped out for this club?
Well, yeah, I think it's exciting. Honestly, John, you know, like, I think there's an unbelievable opportunity in front of us. We have an unbelievable opportunity as an organization to stick with the vision, to move this forward, to stick to our core principles, and really take on the feeling of stacking wins. You know, you're looking to get incrementally better. You're looking to stack wins on top of each other, and they build into bigger wins over time. And I think that, you know, it's something we talk a lot about: staying disciplined, pressures of privilege. You know, embracing that, and as an organization, trusting each other, having hard conversations, challenging each other. I think that's all good stuff. And so I wake up every day, especially right now, I'm excited. I think it's a phenomenal opportunity over this weekend to add to our organization. And I'm looking forward to not just the draft, but everything that goes around. I've told you guys before, I really enjoy this part of the job. And these two guys have done an amazing job getting us prepared. But I don't know, I'm excited. I think that's the best way to say it.